Welcome, my name is Fabio Lanza. I teach in the departments of History and East Asian Studies. I'm a modern China historian, and I'm happy to be here teaching a new course, The Chinese City from Imperial Capital to Global Metropolis, for the Humanities Seminars. As you can guess from the name and the accent, I'm not from around here. I was born and bred in Venice, Italy, and I moved to this country a long time ago to pursue a PhD in modern Chinese history at Columbia University. I picked China out of boredom when I was 19. I didn't know anything about China. I was tired of high school, and I thought Chinese was something difficult to learn, and I thought I'll try. My first Chinese class was, I was told that Chinese was not an alphabetic language, and then all the problems came to life. But I loved it, and I went to China many times, and I fell in love with the country, fell in love with the language, fell in love with the history, and fell in love mostly at the time with the city of Beijing, which was my first experience abroad, a city I lived for about 3 years, and that I've seen change over time, over the last 25 years. The Chinese city is the locus of a major transformation in contemporary China, the place where actually the major change is happening. If you look at China in 1976, 1978, at the end of the Maoist period, which transformed China massively, still Chinese population was about 80% rural and just 20% urban. Right now, as of last year, China is 50-50. Actually, there is a slighter, more population living in city than there is living in the countryside. And that you can imagine, a small Chinese city has 6 million people. A large Chinese city like Shanghai, 16, 18, 20 million, depending how you count the borders. The largest migration in the world happens every year in China, when all the migrants who live in the city move back home for the Spring Festival, for the Chinese New Year. About 150 million people move for a couple of weeks every year. As I say, the largest migration in history repeats itself. So the course will cover all this transformation, and we will pay a lot of attention, especially to the last, I would say 30, 40 years. But we'll start with a sort of a brief analysis of what was the Chinese city before. There's very little left of that Chinese city, so the Imperial city. What was, for example, Beijing? How was its structure in its 600 years of history? Or, I was one of the oldest cities in China, like Suzhou. How were they structured? How were they different from what we think of mostly as European cities? But then we'll move quickly to the Republican period, the 1911 to 1949, and then eventually to the Communist period and the post-Communist period, to analyze how different regimes of governments, but also different regimes of production, socialism versus capitalism, changed the life of people. 23 years ago, I went to Shanghai, and overlooking from the Bund, from the river bank, you could see countryside, you could see people growing stuff. Now, that countryside is the highest concentration of skyscrapers in the world, second only to Hong Kong. Makes New York look rural. So, if you want to know how that happened, if you want to know how this transformation happened, come to this class. I'm very excited to teach it. This is the first time I teach on the Humanities Seminar, and I'm very happy to do that, and I'm looking forward to talk to you, learning from your life experience, and I think it's a great way to spend 10 days in the fall semester.